The number 9 is usually the striker, one of the most prominent positions on a football team. Typically, he is the one responsible for the most important moment in football, scoring a goal. But to score a goal, the entire team needs to be involved. The team needs to have the ball, create the play, and push the ball into the net. And of course, the number 9 needs to help the team in all these moments in some way. To do that, he has to perform a tactical role. Here, we'll break down 3 profiles for the functions of a striker: the strength type, the speed type, and the technical type. But this is just for teaching purposes in this video, as any striker can combine these different profiles and be more complete. However, the game is divided into different moments. What can a striker do in each phase of the attack? Here, we'll discuss a general overview of how a striker would behave according to each profile. Before we specifically dive into the role of the number 9, it's important to clarify 2 concepts to make things easier later. The first one we've already discussed on the channel, but it's worth reinforcing: the concept of the third man. If you have a free player in an advantageous position but can't pass to him because an opponent is blocking the passing lane, you use the third man dynamic. In other words, you pass to another accessible player, who then passes to the player who is free. Another key point is the issue of the spaces where the striker will move. Considering that the striker will occupy a central position between the opposing defenders, he can generally move into 2 main areas: the area in front of the defensive line and behind the opposing midfield line, and the area behind the defensive line. Moving into each of these spaces will require different abilities from the striker. Obviously, this is not a rule, but a more technical striker, whose strengths are associated with ball control and combinations with teammates, will find it easier to drop back into this space, acting as a more advanced support and helping to build plays. On the other hand, a striker whose main weapon is speed will prefer to attack behind the defensive line to receive through balls. He might drop back a little, but the focus won't be so much on participating in combinations, but rather on tracking the defensive line and positioning himself to attack the space at the right moment. A physically stronger striker, whose strength lies in winning duels, might mix both approaches. He can drop back to win a duel near midfield and redirect the ball to his teammates, or contest a more advanced ball, also providing a chance for his team. Of course, a single player can combine several of these aspects, and the more aspects he masters, the more alternatives he offers to the team. Each striker will have his own individuality, excelling in certain types of plays and struggling in others. It's important to consider which types of plays the team's style of play will demand from him. And since everything depends on the team's playing style and collective mechanisms, we need to think about the roles the striker can perform in each phase of the game to help the team function. First, in the beginning of the attack, still in the build-up phase. The build-up phase is basically when the team is still starting the play and has not yet penetrated the opponent's defensive block. The goal at this moment is to move the ball forward near the opponent's goal. One of the alternatives for doing this is through direct play. To make a direct attack, teams often rely on a long ball to the striker, who needs to battle with the opposing defense to win the first ball and try to direct a pass to a teammate, whether it's to one of the midfielders to control the ball in a more advanced area, or to flick the ball to another attacker's speed. Usually, this long ball is played in the air, which will demand from the striker the ability to win duels, especially in aerial situations. To rely on this type of play, the team needs a strong striker who can hold off physical contact with defenders, and ideally, he should be tall. Therefore, a striker with a more physical profile is well suited for this type of build-up play. However, a striker doesn't necessarily need this profile to be an option for advancing during the build-up phase. The striker can also serve as an option for advancing into the space between the lines. Here, for example, comes the possibility of using the third man dynamic, which was mentioned earlier in this video. The center back could find a ground pass through the windows between the defensive lines, targeting the striker, who, of course, would need to move to create this type of passing lane. The striker could receive the ball and pass it to a midfielder positioned to continue the play. This situation requires different skills that the striker needs to master, such as off-the-ball movement so he can create space to receive the ball. Another important point is technical ability, because for the center back to connect with the striker through a ground pass, bypassing the defensive lines, the pass must be quick and often arrives with a lot of force. At this point, the striker needs to decide whether to control the ball, which would require softening the impact to keep the ball close to his body, as pressure would quickly increase. Or, if opting for a first-time pass, he would need to redirect the pass from the center back to another teammate in a way that it arrives smoothly, in some cases, even absorbing a good amount of the ball's force. In this scenario, the striker's height wouldn't matter, but if he controls the ball and attracts pressure, he needs to position his body well to withstand potential contact from a defender arriving behind him. A striker who prefers to attack space can move between the lines not necessarily to receive a pass, but to find the best moment to attack the defensive line and receive a through ball from the center backs. Even if he doesn't receive the ball, his constant threat of attacking the space behind the defense can manipulate the defensive line. For example, if our team's center back has the freedom to play a long ball, the striker can initiate his run into space. This movement may cause some defenders in the defensive line to adjust their body positioning to defend the space or even start their own movement. This would either create more space or make it harder for them to apply quick pressure when the ball enters the space between the lines. If this happens, a midfielder or winger, for example, could step into this space to receive the ball. It's a very specific situation, but it can also occur. All of this refers to when the striker is an option to advance the play and get the team out from the back, but the center forward can also be a piece to help the team create a chance to score. A player with a more physical profile who feels comfortable with contact and clashes with defenders can very well seek that contact and act as a pivot, often playing with his back to goal. In this case, he can receive the ball and lay it off for a teammate to shoot, for example, or even turn on the defender and take a shot himself. A center forward with this profile can also be a reference in the box during plays developing down the flanks. In this case, he doesn't get involved much in the build-up, simply positioning himself in the box, waiting for an opportunity to create space and finish. On the other hand, a center forward with a more technical profile will get more involved in the creative aspect of plays. In many cases, a forward with this profile can play the role of a false nine, circulating behind the defensive midfielders and causing disruptions in the defensive lines. Imagine, for example, a play happening down the left side of the attack. The center forward can move closer to the ball to be an option for a pass between the midfield and defensive lines, roughly in the space between the opponent's fullback and center back. Upon receiving the ball, this forward may attract pressure from a defender, and, depending on who that is, he can choose how to continue the play. For example, if he draws the fullback's pressure, he can pass to the winger, who would gain more space due to the fullback's movement. If, on the other hand, he attracts the center back's pressure, he could create a gap that he or another teammate could exploit. At this point, the striker must think quickly to know where to direct the play to attack the defense. However, he can also drop deeper to create numerical superiority in the central area, behaving almost like an extra midfielder. This type of forward needs to be contextualized with the team's overall system, since, as he moves away from the box frequently, it's necessary for other players to attack the spaces he creates. Or he himself can combine space-attacking traits, exploring the vacant zones created by his movement. However, a forward with a profile that favors attacking space can also drift wide and be an option for long balls behind the opponent's fullbacks. This movement from the center forward can be, for example, linked to an inverted winger. Imagine a strong winger in one-on-one situations getting the ball to take on the opposing fullback. The forward can make a run into the space behind the fullback, drawing the center back's attention, making it harder for the center back to provide cover if the winger dribbles the fullback towards the middle. This same situation can be used to make a combination play, with a midfielder receiving the ball from the winger and delivering a through pass to the center forward. In this case, the forward would face different requirements for this role, such as speed, dribbling ability, and even crossing. And of course, as this center forward often moves away from the central area, someone must always make a run inside to attack the box. A striker of this profile works best when a team uses a strategy of drawing the opponent into their own half and exploiting counterattacks with wide spaces to attack. Remember, we separated these profiles for educational purposes, but no center forward can be boxed into one category, and forwards usually have these abilities to varying degrees. And, of course, everything depends primarily on the team's style of play and what each style demands from its striker, whether he fights hard for the first ball, helps build plays by dropping deeper, or attacks the open spaces. Each player will have an advantage in certain types of plays and disadvantages in others, so it's up to the coach to develop a style that maximizes the strengths of each player. Besides the number 9, another tactically important role in football is the defensive midfielder. And here on the channel, we have a video detailing how a player can perform the typical tactical function of a holding midfielder. That video is now on your screen. Just click and watch it right away.